Hey, Nick.
Hey, Peter. How's life?
How are you doing? Well, you first.
I think today it is like 28 degrees, no wind, perfect Danish summer, and I just went for a swim. And even though I enjoy doing this pod, I would rather sit down on the boat bridge right now and enjoy the weather. But that was just really, really nice. So I'm refreshed and ready.
I'm the opposite. I had to close the window in my loft office here, and it's like a million degrees warm. Like at home, we have this fan in the bathroom. It goes on until the humidity is low enough. But like, even though all the windows, all the doors in the house are open, the humidity was 70 basically.
So the fan
it's
is just
like
on all the time?
It's like 28 degrees and the humidity is 70 and everyone's sweating.
Yeah, if there's a bit of a background noise on my mic today, it's because I have all the windows open and you can hear birds singing and stuff. It's pretty nice.
Nice. Well, I have something to tell you that I think you'll be excited about, unless you already saw my tweet about it.
I haven't looked at Twitter today. I haven't had time.
I just bought a $1,500 domain name.
Oh,
just before the
good
podcast, because
one.
I wanted to tell you about it on the podcast.
The good one.
The good one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can we talk about, like, how much can we talk about it?
I feel like we should just talk about it, and then if we have to cut out the domain name, we can just cut it out when this goes out.
We can beep it out. We should beep it out then.
Yeah, we'll beep it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so should I say the idea first or the domain name first?
Just
idea
do the
first.
pitch. Do the pitch.
Idea first. Okay. Are we going to start there, or is this just a teaser?
New podcast rule: if somebody bought a new domain name, that's where we start the pod.
Okay.
Like that's the rule from now on.
Love it. Okay, so for a while, I've had this feeling when I'm using all the different LLM tools and agents that I use, where I feel like I keep repeating myself because they don't have the same context about me. And that's really annoying. And it happens a lot with, like, I go for a walk in the forest and I talk to Claude or ChatGPT. Often ChatGPT when I'm in the forest because they have better transcription. If I use Claude, then I need to use like Super Whisper or something, which is fine. But anyways, it's just to say I use different tools and I brainstorm like some idea or something I want to code. Then I get back to my office and then, I start Cursor, Claude Code or Codex or something. And I ask them to, build the same thing. Well, it keeps happening that like they don't really get what they're building. And I'm like, but I just spent like an hour talking about it, with one of these tools. So like, why doesn't this tool also just know what we just talked about?
Yeah.
That's just something that comes up more and more. Like I've worked with ChatGPT for a while and like sort of added a lot of rules in there for all sorts of things. And then I switched to Claude for some reason and it doesn't know anything. And it's like so dumb because it doesn't have the context and it's just frustrating.
That switch is so painful. I've done the same.
For a while, I've wanted some sort of shared context, but I really wasn't sure what it was like supposed to look like or how it's supposed to work. Then last weekend, I had the opportunity because of my wife to go away for 24 hours, basically 36 hours, stay in a hotel and just do a bunch of like planning and thinking, like stuff that I haven't had like time in the day-to-day grind to sort of process. And that I just needed like a little like personal retreat, basically is what I like to call it. So I decided that I was like very quickly going to vibe code something as a solution to this problem. And I did. And what I ended up building is something that I call them memos. And the way I thought about it at first is like, I'm just going to like ask my agents to like write things down basically. In the beginning, I wasn't really sure like what that was going to feel like, or if it's like, do I also write some other things down, or is it like mixed with my own notes? Like when I started asking people how they solved this, several people said they just had like an extra Obsidian vault that was like connected to their different tools and stuff. It sounded extremely complicated and like overkill for what I wanted, but also just too heavy for what I wanted. And I don't want AI notes intertwined with my human notes because when I write something down, I value it 10 times more than when Claude writes something down. Like, so I don't want them in the same system. So I forced myself to use the vibe coded thing on my little retreat, and I did the whole time. And just as a side note, like I used Fable the day we had Fable to this
So
is
it looks really
this is my
nice.
competitive advantage for this idea, is that I used Fable for the idea and for the spec for the tool. And then the next morning on my retreat, Fable was just gone, and it was like a distant dream. And then I gave the spec to Codex. It one-shotted a Laravel app with all the features that I mapped out with Fable. And it was using the MCP package that I worked on when I worked at Laravel, and Laravel's OAuth package called Passport. And it one-shotted a working Laravel app that I could deploy to Laravel Forge and connect to Claude and ChatGPT, and it just worked.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
so that was crazy, right? That's just a side note. But then, so I used it, and quickly what I learned on the trip was, this is a way for me to just ask AIs to take notes for me or about me. It's a shared space for my different AI tools to knowledge share, almost like. And it's like, hey, can you write this down so I can refer back to it later? Or can you like write this down so I have it somewhere? Like, just take away whatever you think you should take away from this and write it down somewhere. And I used it a ton, actually, and I really enjoyed using it. And yeah, I said I called them memos. And the domain name I really wanted for it was memo.sh. And it was listed because no one was using it, but someone owned it, of course, and it was listed for $5K, which is
US dollars, right?
You know, US dollars. I'm not going to spend $5K on a domain name unless I'm like, it's a startup, or like I know I'm going to use this for sure. But I just really loved the idea, and I ended up just making an offer basically at $1K. And
Hostile style.
Immediately the guy was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But he said he was willing to go down to 2,500. And I was just like, yeah, at this point, I don't know if I'm actually going to do this or not, because I wasn't like, I liked the idea, but I wasn't sure if other people had this idea, how useful it was. Again, like a little change in here, like some people said Obsidian vaults, and a lot of people also mentioned OpenClaw. So some people apparently still use that. Anyways, I said like, I can't justify spending 2,500 on my like vibe coded idea that I'm not even sure I'm going to do. So I just kind of said, sorry, but I really appreciate you coming down to 2,500. Just can't do it, unfortunately. So basically it's a few days, and he messaged me and he's like, okay, how about 1,500? And then it really started like, it's like, okay, that's below my pain threshold for what to spend a domain. I think it's because I've spent 1,500 before on a domain name. That's how much I paid for writinghabit.com, which is also a really good domain name. So my head just couldn't stop thinking about this domain name now, because I'm more excited about an idea if I have a cool name for it.
I committed doing phone.inc when I got the domain.
Right.
It's
so like, now I'm like, okay, I can actually buy the domain name. I know I'm the kind of person who sometimes spends $1,500 on a domain name. Now I just need the idea to land. I've been tweeting about it a little bit, like didn't really get the interactions I was hoping for there, but whatever. But then it occurred to me today that the way that I would use this more was if it was actually a tiny bit more like OpenClaw, but not like full-blown OpenClaw. But like if I could say like, you know, hey, write this down. This is like important to remember. But if I could also say like, hey, write this down and like remind me in a week.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And then it occurred to me like, okay, that's actually like, I could probably get a lot of free users for just like recording the memos. And then I could probably get people to pay if they wanted more advanced features like reminders and stuff like that. And I was like, that's a cool little project. I could probably build that in like a week or something, and then put a little website together, tweet about it, make a few videos, make maybe some shorts, which is what we do these days, right? And I'm like, it's worth it for the domain name. And then I was like, maybe I'll buy the domain name before the call so I can mention it, memo.sh. But then I was like, well, it's through a broker, so I guess like how long is that going to take? So like just before this call, I messaged the guy. I was like, hey, let's do it. And he immediately answered, thankfully. So I have sent the money, and I have like, it's like reserved now, but I haven't gotten it yet.
And then it goes through escrow and everything, right? It's a cumbersome process.
So I am really excited about this domain name. And I think it's a fun little idea, kind of like OG Kit, but this one has the opportunity to actually be a real thing. Like, who knows? Like, if people actually started using it, it'll be really cool, but it could also just be like a fun little side project. Like, it can both be a little side project, or it could be like a huge thing. You don't really know.
I'm going to mention some technology now, because I think search is going to be hugely important in something like this. The more content you get in there, right? And you should definitely use Turbopuffer. It's made for context for AIs. So yeah, I'll just do an advert for Simon and Turbopuffer here, because I actually think this is
not
quite
like
a good
they
fit.
need it though.
And they've just slashed 5/6 of the price on the starting tier, so you can get going for $16 now. No,
Nice.
and another thing, if people out there stop using OpenClaw and have some Mac Minis that they're not using for anything, please let me know, because I'm potentially building a little bit of a Mac Mini cluster in my home data center. So ping me.
Of course you are.
No, but that's super cool. And 4-letter words, like single word domains on an acceptable
And it's the perfect word for
TLD.
this thing.
Yeah, it's like, just do it. And I also think on the idea, I just did one of my first Angel tickets, and it was basically in a tool not entirely similar to this, but working in kind of the team context space. And I think we're using Linear more and more at Phone.ink, which is basically ending up also being kind of a take on context, shared context for teams and kind of agent orchestration. And I think this is going to be, no matter kind of who the winner becomes, and yours is more like single player consumer focused and so on, fixing context across agents is just going to be a huge space, right?
Seems like an interesting problem to solve, And just by like using it for 2 days, like nonstop, was like, yep. Like, for example, like I had a plan for the retreat. Like I had like 3 different things I wanted to like work on, and I had like sub things for each of them. And I did that plan with Fable as well. Then at the end, Fable was just like, hey, you wanted me to like add it to a memo?
Yeah.
And I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then if I'm talking to ChatGPT, which I was like when I was out walking, I could just be like, well, like, what's the next thing on the plan, or like how does this fit into the plan? And it had the plan,
Yeah, it's pretty.
It was just cool.
It's super cool, and you can build it fairly lightweight as well, right? Without being a huge complex thing where you have to kind of inherent one way of working in the world, right?
Yeah, and it's just so it could go in a lot of different directions with that name too.
Yeah.
It's just a good name for like a fun like science experiment like this.
I have like a handful of really good domains as well that can be kind of all kinds of products, but each in different directions, right? Memo could equally be, a blocking platform or like all sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
So like just keep it. If it's not this project, you'll find another project for a great name.
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, if anyone is interested in what I'm building with this, they could ping me somewhere, probably on X, and tell me that they're interested in it. Because then, actually, when this comes out, I'll have something on memo.sh where you can
You'll
sign
have a
up for
waitlist.
something. Yeah, I'll have a waitlist. I just realized I have like 1.5 weeks before this goes out.
Yeah.
So I'll have a
You'll have a
waitlist.
product done by then. Your loops would have built something for you before then.
I'll have 100 million AR when this comes out.
What else is going on in Peter Suhm's world?
Oh man, I got a lot of clarity on my little retreat. Some of it is difficult to talk about, unfortunately. I guess I can maybe start by just talking about sort of my methodology. Sorry, there's a lot of noise in the background.
No stress.
I did a similar retreat, a bit longer, 1.5 years ago, but like, yeah, 1 year and 3 months ago, basically, where I was at a different point than I am now. Like I was like, didn't really know what to do at all with anything. And the thing that came out of that retreat, that was the first retreat where I had like Claude with me, to like really, I don't know, keep track of everything and help me like think through my notes. And on these retreats, I'll take like 5,000 words of notes or even more, 10,000 words. I'll just type for hours, literally just try to empty my brain, and then constantly just like drop it into Claude and be like, okay, what are the patterns you see? So I'll just like type forever. And as I type, I'll just like throw stuff into agents, and that kind of gives me like the next prompt to talk about. And yeah, I do a lot of stuff like that. But the outcome of the last retreat was that I kind of decided to double down on myself. And what that meant in practice was to double down on my own company, which is the company that I do all my consulting work through and my products as well, which is just called Suhm, my last name, APS, like the Danish company, like basically like ink, right, in the US. So basically Suhm APS. And what I did back then was I wrote a letter to the board of Suhm APS, which there's not a board.
I want to be on that board.
The board is just me. But I sent you the board letter as one of the 3 people I showed it to, I think. And that just like gave me a lot of clarity that helped me for like the following year almost to kind of think through things. So like once in a while I'll pull out the board letter I wrote and I was like, yeah, I'm doing well compared to what I wrote. And so my hope this time was that I could write almost like an investor update or like an update to the board about like what's been going on in the past 1 year and 3 months. And yeah, there's some things there that I don't really want to mention here. But I kind of decided to double down on the framework, I guess, of how I see myself and my work, which I have been doing. Like Suhm APS has a website that's suhm.dk, is kind of the company's website. And also, like, I also had a few interesting learnings. Like, one of the things I said the first time was that I was going to focus more on building software, and I was going to almost like treat it as like a software studio with like, I had this like framework for how to do experiments. And I think OGKit was the only sort of true experiment that came out of that. I do think it was a really good experiment, and it ended up in a good place. But where I kind of landed was like, it's not a big opportunity for me to spend too much time on OGKit. I think it was a great experiment. I think it was a good lottery ticket for me to have. Like, I don't want to sell it. I don't want to like give it away or shut it down or anything. I love OGKit, and I think it's like a really fun product for me to own. It's like, that's what I wrote on that blog post, is like, I created the perfect side project. Like it is the perfect side project for me to have. And it's awesome to have something to work on with AI that's like a real thing with real customers. It's like a going concern, right? But I'm not investing a ton into it right now because it's not really the biggest opportunity for me. And that was another learning I put in the letter, was like, I thought my biggest opportunity was to double down on software. And where the true opportunities has been every time I've doubled down on like relationships and network. Like, one thing I did around the same time that I did the last retreat was to decide that I was going to get into public speaking for real. And I had a hope that I would go to Laracon EU. I didn't know how long it would take. And I started by doing meetup talks. And then I went to Laravel Live Denmark, and then Laravel Live UK, and then Laracon EU. So I kind of achieved my goal there. But all the networking from that is like what made working at Laravel possible, I think. Like, I don't think that would have happened if I hadn't like been on the conference trail talking about AI and putting myself out there and really like diving into it. You know, I was doing my Cursor talk like 1.5 years ago now, and people were barely I did my talk before people started doing agentic tooling. So like when people started doing that a little bit, I adopted that into the talk, but like obviously like most people didn't do it. When I did that talk in London last summer, a year ago, I don't think even half the room said that they were using AI when I asked them to raise their hand for coding, which was insane to me because it was my whole life at the time was like AI coding. Yeah. So, the same reason I ended up working with you and doing videos and podcasts and stuff is, just being like, I like you. We get together. Like we what's the word? Like
we vibe.
We vibe, right?
Code.
As friends as well, but also when we do stuff together. And I think I've just had the mentality of like, I don't know what's going to come out of this if we do a podcast or if I help Niklas out in Phone.inc, but it seems like, it just seems right. It seems like, and everything good that's come out of the last 1.5 years have been like that in one way or the other. So it's just something for me to reflect about. Like, I still really want to do software. Like, I just bought a $1,500 domain name. But the reason that might work might be because I'm doing videos now and podcasting again and stuff like that. So that was like my biggest takeaway is like, I'm not saying software is a bad idea. I'm just saying, just note that like the thing that actually worked was my network and my personal brand in a sense, right?
Yeah, I think what works was that you are, you're an entrepreneur. Even though it doesn't necessarily feel like that every day, doing Tailwind stuff, doing Funding stuff, it can feel like you're almost a consultant, right? More than anything. But you're actually building up, slowly but steadily building up Suhm ApS as a real company that have customers, that is not only about being a consultancy, right? And putting yourself out there is just a part of that. That's the sales motion for that company right now, right?
Yeah, there was a big like financial milestone as well that I hit recently for the company that I wouldn't have dreamed of like 2 years ago, maybe. So yeah, in many ways, it was nice, and like I feel like it was nice to write that update. And I spent a lot of time on it, like probably maybe too much time, because I wanted it, like the content was pretty easy to get in there, but I wanted it to sound perfect. Like I wanted the writing to be absolutely perfect. And besides me, there's maybe 2 or 3 people that's ever going to read it. So like, why does the writing need to be perfect? It's because I know that I'm going to pull it out in 2 months and be like, well, what did I say there again? And I wanted to like sell myself on what I put in that update, right?
I think you should actually, like, in Denmark, where when you do your yearly financial report, you can put like a statement from the leadership in there. And I think you should actually do like a dialed down version of this as a part of your statement from the shareholders every time, and do it like officially.
That's good,
instead of just a random template from the accountants, right?
The idea of this is like Warren Buffett, like Berkshire Hathaway
investor letters.
Like,
you should publish whatever you can of them. Put them on the Suhm ApS website. Just why only 3 people, right? Of course, there's like stuff in there that you can share, but do a public version of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it.
And then I'm really envious of your retreats. Have you ever heard? You probably have, but about I don't know what the exactly English word is, but the refuge that you can rent in like Danish churches and so on. Refugium, it's called in Danish.
Oh, okay, like in a monastery or something?
Yeah, like monasteries and churches and so on, have them all around the country in the most beautiful old buildings, like in the countryside. Like instead of doing it at a hotel next time, you should do it there. It's basically built for this. It's built for reflection and work. I still dream about getting time to do that. I'll send you a few links. I have like a list of places I would love to go.
Nice.
Anything else on the Peter update? It was a massive one.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really actually, but like there's a lot of stuff at Tailwind as well going on right now. But I just can't really talk about it. But I still mention it because it's something that I'm spending a lot of time on right now. I just really can't talk about it. It's just there's a lot of like strategizing and ideas and things going on, but it's too early to talk about it.
Cool. We're looking forward to that update when you can share.
Yeah, it'll be a good update, I think.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, your turn.
My turn. So I talked a little bit about my San Francisco trip in the vlog we did last week. But I think like overall, I come home extremely energized. And I think the part of that is kind of wanting to pick up speed in the company. And I think that's a twofold thing. That's both from seeing kind of companies that was further along in the process in SF and see how well they're doing. And then secondly, because we've been doing this infrastructure project where we build a lot of the telephony infrastructure ourselves, and that doesn't introduce a single new feature for our customers or even for my own kind of feeling of moving the company forward. So it's a lot of just piping and hardcore infrastructure stuff, and that doesn't feel like a lot of progress, even though it is hugely important and definitely the right decision we're doing it and everything is going well. I'm just like we're in the final stretch of it, and I just really urge to get some of the cool stuff built that I want to build, So I'm kind of in a feeling of wanting to kind of get the speed up. But not in a negative way. Just like I just want to do even more. And then it was interesting talking to VCs in the US. Like I can feel that they get me and that I speak to them as well in a way where they look at us positively. Like we're not actively racing right now, so it's mostly kind of a connecting with great VCs that I know or have been introduced to kind of build up relationship for racing later. But even a few of those conversations is like continuing even though I'm home now. So I think that's a great sign, right? And then I think also like related to the speed thing, I have decided that we need to hire an engineer more. So we're kind of 2 full-time engineers plus me right now, and we are 5 people in the company in total. Now 4, now 1 more starting soon. So just to pick up speed, I decided that we're going to hire 1 more over the summer. And I also decided, there's a fighter plane outside. Sorry for that. It's 4 F-45, I think, flying over my head.
Nice. Well, just to wrap up San Francisco, because we talked about that on the vlog. The vlog is on the Phone Inc. YouTube channel, not the Still Early channel.
We will link it in the show notes.
There's a vlog where we talk more about San Francisco.
Yeah.
And we sort of, you called me when you were over there and called me up and everything. Yeah.
And I think related to the speed stuff in San Francisco, I also decided to reach out to my operations person who was planning to start after summer. And I know that she already resigned and kind of didn't feel like she was doing a lot of great things at her, or couldn't do a lot of great things because she already resigned at her old job. And I just wrote her and asked if she was ready to start earlier. So instead of in a couple of months, she's now starting on Monday, which is, also a way for me to pick up speed because there's just so many things on my plate that could equally be on hers and that she would be way better at than me. So rather get that started now than just waiting because there's a holiday in the middle of it, right? So she's now starting on Monday, so I spend most of today kind of preparing for that.
Exciting.
So yeah, I think I definitely left San Francisco with a lot of great energy, also with a lot of questions. Considering moving there, rent has gone up by 40 to 50% in San Francisco over the last 5 months due to the massive IPOs that are underway in the US. Then prices in San Francisco just go up preemptively, which is pretty crazy. So kind of the primary topic for kind of the entrepreneurs that I talk with over there at like social events, everybody was talking about rent and how house prices and how it's basically starting to get to a level where it keeps entrepreneurs out of the Bay Area, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, I've also spent quite a lot of time on legal this week. So I think legal is one of those things where it's so easy for us, in the worst of words, AI native founders to just ask ChatGPT to write up terms of conditions and the privacy policy and a data processing agreement. But I think one thing that is extremely important to remember is that those documents are actually some of the most important documents in terms of raising your next rounds. So maybe they're factually right and they say the right things you want to say to your users. But if they are not compliant and right, you can actually get in a lot of troubles in the due diligence in the upcoming rounds, because that's basically the contract with your customers. And if your contract with customers are not legal, then you don't have any legal customer relationships, and then your valuation is very different, right? So it's often one of the things you end up having to fix later on. So I think, as a venture-funded company, we can splurge the money on doing that right from the beginning. So I've started that process with law firms, right? But like on legal, like it is just so important to do it right especially when you are venture funded, because otherwise you just end up having to remend it or amend it in the middle of raising, which is just terrible time to have all your contracts and customer relationships up in the air, right? So. And the terms we have right now and the privacy policy we have right now is something I needed for some of the partnerships that we're creating. So I just did that quick and dirty with AI, and now we're then doing the right version, right? And then I think the last legal issue that I have been worked on this week is compliance around robocalls and kind of fraudulent use of our services, especially in the US. We have to comply with the FCC's robocall mitigation laws. And the funny thing is that when I then added us to the robocall mitigation program, which you have to do, I started getting so many spam emails from people who wanted to sell me telco infrastructure to our compliance email. So the most spam we are getting now, we are getting from an anti-spam program in the US, which is so annoying.
Yeah, what can you do?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think the last thing that takes off my mind right now is, as a team, we are becoming really, really good at agentic coding, and everybody in the team is really leaning in. And here we're talking about everything from designers who have never coded before to engineers with 30 plus years of experience. And everybody is leaning in, right? Which is amazing. But a lot of other agentic prompters or agentic coders or whatever we want to call it, I've also read the tweets and seen the videos about loops. So I spent some time kind of figuring out what it is. And it is so funny. In our world, we always mix up fancy new words for just having scheduled cron jobs and things that get triggered by webhooks. Because that is in the end what a loop is, right? It is just fully agentic coding agents that get triggered by something. But I then spent some time kind of figuring out how can we automate even more of our coding pipeline. Do we have Sentry errors triggering coding agents that creates pull requests that gets automatically reviewed by other agents and stuff like that, right? And kind of leaning into linear as our kind of orchestration tool, which is quite interesting, but it's not at all perfect yet. And I'm definitely getting the feeling that linear is really changing their strategic direction from being a issue tracker to now being this agentic orchestration platform. But they're not done with that transition. So a lot of things are kind of in between and not fully honed out yet. So it definitely feels a little bit duct tape.
Linear and cursor on each track of on each side of the football track, and they're running toward each other, and they're going to meet in the middle somewhere with literally the same product.
Yeah, and a lot of it is orchestrating cursor from linear or the other way around. And it just feels like there's still a few places where I need stuff to connect better. But today, all the coding I've done today, I've tried to do fully in linear and not actually in cursor's editor, but using cursor agents from linear. And that's definitely not a perfect experience so far, but it's getting there. And then I think a lot of cursor's cloud products are decent, but again, there's also a lot missing there. So they just launched automations recently where you can kind of trigger their agents, that cloud agents based on different triggers and so on. But the trigger that I've created doesn't trigger. And so it's still rocky, but I think there's a lot to win here, especially with memo.sh, really good context around all of it, right? Which I think is where linear at least is leading right now, right? So it's super, super interesting.
Yeah, you said you didn't want to record because you were making loops.
Yeah, exactly. And then we use loops.so as our email tool. And I was just sitting looking at their domain. It's like they should pivot and do loops with that domain. Yeah. So it's I think it's super interesting to figure out. First of all, I've always found it interesting. How do we orchestrate as a team? What is our process to deliver great products? That's something I've spent 15 years of my life on. But now the question becomes, how do we orchestrate as a combination of teams of humans and agents? And that just adds another vector on the entire challenge, right?
Right.
Which is just super, super fun to play around with. And some of the value has yet to be shown, and a lot of it is very clear. So we'll see.
Nice. Well, I forgot something from last time that maybe we can end on. Because I talked about the AEO/GEO, whatever we call it, for ranking or getting recommended by answering machines or answering answering engine optimization is what AEO is. And yeah, so I had ChatGPT do that like crash course. It completely misunderstood. Like I had to do it 4 times before it really understood what I was saying, because it kept doing like the research behind building those kinds of recommendation engines. That was like interesting to see, actually, because that's seeing it from the other side. That's probably good to know as well. But yeah, basically, so what it comes down to, like, I've watched a few YouTube videos as well and read some articles. We were sponsored at Tailwind by Profound, which is one of the big platforms for this, and they have some really cool content actually on their blog about some of this stuff that I dove into. And apparently, the way you get recommended by AI is by having those kinds of comparison blog posts, where it's just like, okay, like for me, for OG Kit, if I wanted to do this, could be like, okay, what are 10 ways to create a dynamic OG image or something like that? Or what's the alternatives to doing it this way or that way? And then just have like a lot of those. And what you're looking for is something that's like really bite-sized for them to quote really easily. This is about the recommending products, not what they're trained on, but what you were talking about last time, where they do some research. And the thing they latched onto is like that type of content where they have as like something really bite-sized to like very simply explain what the product does and how it could be used to solve this problem. And then another important thing is like have some sort of authority for like who is saying this. Who is making this, like, who's the trusted source that's saying this is good. And this is why I should, of course, have like testimonials and stuff. And those testimonials should do the same thing, like, right? They should say, hey, I'm this important person and OG Kit solved this specific problem. So the AI know when it comes across that problem that here's the solution. It's just how the whole vector database structure work with the embeddings and stuff, right? You need to like, that quote needs to be put the same place in the database as like the question that they're asking. So you want to lean into the questions, and behind the scenes, they are simplifying the prompt or modifying the prompt before they search. Like they don't go out and search with what you said, of course. Like they try to like search for the right, like the obvious sort of questions or queries to find the thing. And then you just want to like, you want to have content that sort of answers those questions very clearly and very easily. So like FAQs and comparison pages and stuff like that is really good for it. Testimonials too.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So definitely some stuff to dive into there, but it's really interesting, I think.
And how do they treat like those comparison pages, right? One of the of course obvious big problems is that they're pretty one-sided, right? The publisher.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're years behind, like
a true SEO,
normal
right?
SEO, because they don't work anymore for SEO. Those pages don't really work anymore.
No, they're super dead. It's interesting.
But for AI stuff, they work. Like this is what everyone is saying. Like people are like DMing me, like people even that work in like products that do these things are like DMing me after last episode and basically saying, the crazy thing is like how 50% of all they recommend is like from those kinds of pages.
Wow.
Yeah, so maybe it's something we should get onto.
I can get my loops looping on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but like for sure we should build that, right? And I think it's interesting, like building those kind of pages is always interesting when you are a product that tries to go lower in the market. It's really visually pleasing and easy to do when you're one of those let's just have every feature in the world kind of product. But when you actually want to have less features than the competitors, you have to figure out how you can drive those comparison features from comparing features to comparing impact and value, right? Which is also like what the primary themes of your website should be, right? But it's just so easy to just fall down into the tables with checklists kind of pages, right? So it'll be fun to build in a way where we talk more about the philosophy behind our product and the competitors, right?
Yeah, and maybe it's more like what's a good phone system
Yeah.
for a carpenter,
Yes.
for a blah, 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 you know?
Yeah. Then you can go all the way down to kind of comparing Phone.inc to Ring Central for Shopify stores.
Yeah.
Right. And for WooCommerce stores and for blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Like almost kind of long tail comparisons pages.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyways, just wanted to follow up on that because I've been looking into it. And now I want to open the window again.
Amazing, Peter. Enjoy the fantastic summer weekend we have in front of us, and talk to you soon.
You too.
Bye.
See you later. Hey.